Hey folks, it's Troy and I'm back with another video, and I figured it's time to record one since I've had several pen acquisitions and chances to investigate and play with some new pens. So I wanted to go over some of those with you. I'm going to start with another classic. I actually got several of these Esterbrook's 1940, 1950s lever-filled pen. You can't go wrong with an Esterbrook because usually they're fairly inexpensive, and I tend to pick up a bunch. I've got a huge, well, I call it huge to me, I mean about a dozen Esterbrook pens, and I like them. Sometimes they write very, very well, sometimes not so much. I've gotten ones that I've smoothed out the nibs, I've traded out the nibs. The nibs are really easy to work with, they're easy to change out the sacks once you learn how to do it. But, you know, pens like this, you can see it's got some nib creep on this one here that I got to clean up just a little bit. But at least this one writes fairly well. And this particular one has a much finer nib than I'm used to. It's a firm fine, but I chose to keep it because I don't think I've got a 95-50 nib on any of my other Esterbrooks. And along with it came one more, which was a nice blue. Wife saw it. Oh, I kind of like that. So now it's in her collection. So you got to do that. Guys, if you got a wife who takes an interest in your pen hobby, be supportive. I'll share with you a little bit more about that. I think I talked already. She wanted a Waterman. So I went ahead and got her a Waterman Karen. I had one, and what's better than one Waterman Karen? Two Waterman Karens. So she's got one, and she's right happy with it. Waterman Karen is one of my favorite pens thus far. So that's one of the additions to my collection. Now, I've already talked about this one here, this particular Van Gogh series Visconti. It came with a fine nib, and I was able to get a medium nib and put on this. And I tell you what, I keep hearing about people squawking about quality control with Visconti. I have not had any issues with either of the nibs that I've had in this particular pen, in my Van Gogh Iris Pen. So no complaints from me thus far. And I've got two Viscontis. I can't show you the other one right now, and someday I will explain why. Let's see what else. Oh, an El Cheapo 99-cent Aihao pen. And I've had this one before. I had problems with one, and I got one of these within the last year, and it gave me nothing but problems. They don't take standard international cartridge or converters. It was writing horribly. For 99 cents, what did you expect? It was just a cheap pen from China. Well, I got it. I gave it mine to my son after I got it working really, really well. So that was one of the first pens he added to his collection. My mother-in-law liked it, so I got her one, and I ordered myself one, and this finally came in. And it took a while to get this writing. It was writing really, really scratchy. So whether it's a 99-cent pen or whether it's a $119 pen, you can get a scratchy one, and you may need to smooth it out for a little bit. So I took this. One of the things I learned is the ink really sucks from that come with these Aihaos. So I used my syringe, cleaned out the ink, and I put in some nice ink. This time I put in a Diatramentis Blackberry, and it still wrote very, very scratchy. Spent a little bit of time with some micro mesh, and just to give you an idea, this is how it wrote before. Very scratchy and thin. This is how it wrote afterwards. By the time I just spent just a couple of minutes going over it. So it writes a lot smoother and a lot better now. So it was worth it to me to spend just a few minutes to try to get a pen smoothed out and writing better. Let's see, the next couple of pens. Oh, let me talk about this one right here. Guys, if your wife likes your pen hobby, you may want to indulge her once in a while. I had this one here that I picked up at the Raleigh Pen Show back in the beginning of June. It was a Carbonesque blue Pilot Vanishing Point. It's one of my two favorite pens. I love it. It writes very smoothly. I just had to re-ink it the other day, so very happy with it. My wife loved it, and she wanted one. Well, little did she know that there was a sale going on at Goulet Pens, and with every Pilot Vanishing Point, you get a bottle of Pilot Iroshizuku ink. So I picked up a bottle of Konpeki ink that way, and I got her this one, which is a lavender Decimo version Pilot Vanishing Point. Now, this is just a little more slender than the regular or the standard Vanishing Point. So you may be able to see these side by side. They're both medium nibs, but this one is a little more slender than this one, and this is a little more metallic looking. Happened to be in the color that my wife absolutely adores, and this one also writes very, very smoothly. It's kind of fun when you've got a woman who squeals with glee, is all excited that, you know, just like a little girl when you give her a gift. So I was actually saving it at one point. I was going to give it to her for our anniversary, which is coming up in October. However, within a couple of weeks, we're going to be at the DC Pen Show. And what I don't want to do is have to explain to her why I'm not going to be even interested in picking up or even looking at Pilot Vanishing Points while we're there, even if they have good prices or a good sale. But this right here, I put in some Pelican Violet ink. I had a nice little sample of that, and it writes very, very smoothly. So just as smoothly as my other one. So that one is now hers, and she's been using that quite a bit since she just got the other day. I'm going to be doing another video here soon with my son. A lot of people have commented very favorably on Matthew and his talk and his incessant talk during our times together recording our couple of videos that we've done. They've actually suggested maybe that we ought to get him his own YouTube channel. It's always a possibility. We'll see. But he had his birthday, and we put out a video of his birthday pen haul. And so a pen friend, Larry, from Larry's Fountain Pens, was very gracious to give him some pens for his birthday. So we've got some of those that he and I are going to show you guys together. And Larry sent along a couple of other gracious gifts, so I wanted to thank Larry along with that. I was able to get this Lamy Vista. I was very happy to see that. I've got a nice Lamy collection. Fortunately, I had another Lamy converter laying around in my drawer, so I had that thing inked up, and I'm pretty happy with it. I can't complain. Let's see, I put in a Noodler's Bay State Blue in it, and it writes great. So thank you, Larry. The next two pens I want to show you are pens that I got from other collectors. From time to time, you're going to run across collectors who either just lose their interest, and I've seen some of those guys online. I have seen guys who are determined that they're only going to have 15 to 20 pens in their collection, and if they run across anything that's in their collection they don't want, or they don't reach for within the past couple of months, or they just feel like they've got like 300 pens and they've got too many, they want to weed out their collection and sell them off or give them away, as some people have done. There are other people who just say, you know, I'm only going to have X amount of pens. Anything beyond that, I'm never going to use, so I'm going to sell those off. And that may give them more money in order to buy better pens. And then there are people who do reviews, who have a sizable collection, who just say, you know, I've got a bunch. I'm not against getting more. And matter of fact, I want to get more. So I want to sell off some pens that I don't use very much in order to help afford to buy more pens. So I found there were a couple of guys I ran across online that were that way. So the first one I got just arrived in the mail today. Actually, today was a good pen mail day for me. I got two pens in the mail. Another TWSBI, a TWSBI 580 AL. And it's got you know, that diamond-looking body to it. I was able to ink that up with some Birmingham pens. That's there. I don't know how well you can see that if it shows in the light, but that's a turquoise. I can't complain about that. I've actually inked several pens with that turquoise. It's a nice writing ink. It is a Birmingham Pens Point Park Fountain Turquoise. So got a whole bottle of that from the folks there. So this one here is a medium nib, a nice little TWSBI, and this is my second TWSBI. So let me contrast or compare that to the TWSBI Eco. I got this particular TWSBI Eco from Birmingham Pens over a month and a half ago, I can't remember. And I inked this up, and it wrote very, very nicely. I'd heard a lot about TWSBI. Now I know why. Matter of fact, my wife tried my TWSBI Eco. She liked it. She wanted one, so I got her one identical to this. So let me try to pull it back a little bit and show you here. So the TWSBI Eco is like a $30 pen max, probably $28, $29. This right here, full retail value, brand new, runs about 60 bucks. So this is about twice the price as this. They have a lot of similarities. As you can see, TWSBI is known for having piston fillers, and they're also known for having demonstrator models. The Eco, I could get it with a clear cap, but I paid an extra $1 just to get black, for the simple reason that it was different from any of the other demonstrators that I've got. I wanted something a little bit different. So you can see on the cap, it's a little different than what's on this cap. So one is just plastic and the other is that clear acrylic. You can see that the clips are a little bit different. You can tell the construction of them feels a little different. The TWSBI Eco actually feels smoother and feels a little cheaper than does the 580. Now, as far as how they write, they both write very, very nicely, very smoothly. I cannot complain. I managed to get a spare nib to go along with the 580 when I bought it. Like I said, I bought it used. It seems to be very lightly used because it was in excellent condition. The seller told me it was very lightly used, had not been inked much, and so far I got it in a timely fashion, no complaints, been able to use it nicely, and I'll show you a writing sample that I've got here in front of me for that. So be on the lookout. I found the one on a message board or a group for fountain pen sales on Facebook. So this guy put out that he was selling that for 40 bucks. I think is what I paid for, $40 used. And I said, all right, I know brand new they're 60, and if it's as good a condition that he says it is, then I should be good. And that included shipping. So I jumped at it and just got it in the mail today. So can't complain. So a very lightly used 580, I saved 20 bucks, and it writes as good as if it was new. I showed you a tip before. I got a cigarette store not too far from here. I don't smoke. I've never tried one in my entire life. But I do know that cigar shops carry cigar boxes and wanted to see if they sold them, and sure enough they did. So I managed, for $2 I picked up this box, and this is where I put some of my my bigger pens that don't fit into over here, and I've got some that I've put elsewhere in little zip-up pockets, but I put some in here just for fun. It only holds, 5 cigars. This one I've already shown you before, but the Charles Schulz Esterbrook. Beautiful pen. I like the pen. I like how it looks, but I gotta be honest, the new Esterbrooks suck. It's hard starting. It'll dry out after a little while, and it's hard getting it rolling again. I don't know if ink just evaporates real quickly out of it, but I had to twist up the to prime it some on that converter. The nibs just aren't really that great. Like I said, gorgeous pen. When I first filled it, it wrote okay. And I think that's what I just said in my review of it. It writes okay. But just an update on that. I'm not the only person who has tried a new Esterbrook, the new incarnation of it, and been not happy. Unfortunately, I had to find that out on one of their more expensive ones. Yeah, I didn't pay full price for it, but still, it was unused, and it was one of their higher end ones. Now, here's another one pen that I got from somebody, like I just said, who was thinning out their collection. Supposedly only been inked up a few times. I can't complain at all. And I got a pen friend who was selling this, a Delta. Now, I've known about Delta pens for a while. I did not have one in my collection. It was one of those that was on my radar for eventually picking up. And when you find a decent price on a decent pen, one that has a good reputation, and you got the ability to do it, sometimes you pull the trigger on it. This is the Delta Dolcevita. Let's see what else. Oh, Federico. Yep. Dolcevita Federico. Sometimes this is called the Halloween pen. And if you hear some meowing, my cat decided she wanted to be in the room too. But this particular pen, I thought it was beautiful when I first saw it. The gold trim on black with an orange celluloid barrel. Absolutely looks beautiful. So I saw that, and it was up for sale, and I said, that's a beautiful pen. So, we talked privately, and he gave me a price for it. It was a price I was willing to pay for what I was getting. I knew the reputation of the brand. I had an idea what they were going for full MSRP. So we made a deal, and I just got it today in the mail. It's an oversized pen. I don't think it's their biggest, but it's definitely they're an oversize. One of the things I like about this particular pen is the cap's not really heavy. I'm not the kind of guy who's going to sit there and give you all kinds of measurements. All right, but supposedly this can be a piston filler. I did not piston fill it because it also does take an international standard converter. And quite honestly, if I can fill it that way, why not just do it that way? But you see it's got some ribbing around the end, which will go into the blind cap, and supposedly you can fill it that way. But I just took it off, number one, because I wanted to check it out. Now, I've seen reviews where some people have used this as an eyedropper, and it holds a good amount, what, 5 or 6 mils of ink. All right, well, it takes a converter. I'm just going to stick with that. This one has a broad nib. I got to be honest with you. This is the first broad nib. Actually, technically it's the second. That Aihao that I showed you for 99 cents is supposed to be a broad nib, but it wrote like a fine, and now it writes more like a medium since I tinkered with it. But this one here has a broad nib. I didn't own any pens with broad nibs because I particularly have found I don't like extra fine. I don't like fine nibs. Medium nibs generally I'm happy with. I've got some mediums that kind of write a little on the broad side, and I've got some fines that write a little on the medium side. I got some mediums that write a little on the fine side. Well, this particular broad nib, I can't say that I was disappointed with it. It wrote very, very smoothly. So I inked this up also with a Birmingham Pens ink and the Allegheny Arsenal black ink that I had. I just felt like it because those are the first 2 inks that I grabbed for the TWSBI. And for this one, I just happened to grab the 2 Birmingham inks. I wanted to put something a little more colorful in this, and I wanted to get it out of a bottle rather than out of a sample. So I knew that this turquoise writes a little on the darker side than some of the others, and I wanted to see how it wrote in this particular pen compared to some of the other pens that I've got it in. And I figured, all right, black's going to be black, probably, no matter what when I put it in. So anyway, this writes very, very smoothly. One of the things about this particular pen, posted, when I first got it, I'm going, all right, is this really as long as I want it? Is there a longer one that I might enjoy a little better? It looked a little short to me until you post it for me, and then it fits perfect for me. That fits very nicely in the hand, and with that cap on it, it does not back weight it too heavily. It's a girthy pen, kind of a fat pen. So if you like bigger pens with a bigger grip, then this is going to be right up your alley. And it's fairly comfortable. I haven't written with it all day yet. Matter of fact, my pen of the day was far from that. It was actually an Esterbrook, an old Esterbrook J was my pen of the day. This will come up as my pen of the day sometime soon. But the writing that I did sit down, I mean, whenever I get a pen, it's a new toy. I'm going to sit and play with it. It wrote fairly well. Just like I got this one today, I sat and played with it, and it wrote fairly well. So this one here, by comparison, when I post it, the length is nice, but it does back weight that a little bit. So today I've been writing with it unposted. Still a decent length and still comfortable in my big paws. So on the TWSBI 580, I have to unpost it. So anyway, all right. So let me show you a couple of the writing samples that I did, and then I'm pretty much going to call it quits for tonight. This is the TWSBI 580 AL that I did with that Birmingham inks, that turquoise ink. It writes very smoothly. It's a medium nib. No complaints about it whatsoever. It wrote every bit as smooth as my TWSBI Eco. It was a lot what I expected. It does feel a little better, I think, in the hand, this little Diamond 580, and I can't complain. It says right there. Maybe you can see it. I don't know if you can see how that says, but it is it says Diamond 580 right on it. So, can't complain about that. Now, this one, the broad nib on the Delta Dolcevita with a broad nib in the Allegheny Arsenal Birmingham black ink. It'll take a little getting used to because it is going to be a little broader, hence the broad nib, and I'm just not so used to that. I am used to some medium nibs that write a little broad. An example of that would be my Waterman Karen. Does that for me. Writes a little broader than I expected on a medium nib. But those are my new additions. My wife's new addition. Matthew, I'm sure, will sit with me and we'll record some of his new additions coming up. Other than that, thanks to my pen friends who were willing to sell off some of their collection and give me a decent deal. Thank you for the pens that I've received El Fribo. Talked about the Lamy a little bit, and I'm not going to go into an in-depth review of it, but I own a bunch of other Lamys, and this is every bit the quality as other Lamys that are in my collection, so I cannot complain. You can't go wrong with a Lamy if you're looking for a low to mid-range pen, something like that. The TWSBIs, both TWSBIs I've got, I'm very happy with. The Delta, if you're looking for an upper range pen, you can't go wrong with the Delta so far, that from what I can tell and play with, and definitely the Pilot Vanishing Points. I understand they're every bit as good as everybody says because now we have 2 of them in our family. So, hey, thanks for watching. Maybe you get some ideas for your collection. Maybe you can find some decent deals. Maybe you can find $10, $12, $15 Esterbrooks to add, tinker with, and play with, and heck, maybe even a 99-cent Aihao piece of garbage pen that you can make run a little more smoothly. So, catch you later.